A very good morning to you all. In the last session, we were discussing about the protein identification. In today's session, we will continue the protein identification via database. The protein identification via database or through database searching is facilitated by three important parameters. Number one, the accurate mass by charge values of the fragments, more specifically the digest fragments. Number two, the specificity of the enzyme used. And number three, the accurate mass by charge of the intact protein. So these three parameters facilitate the protein identification using the databases that are available on the internet. In the table given, you can see the databases such as NCBI NR. Here NCBI referred to National Center for Biotechnology Information and NR for non-redundant database. Then we have SwissProt database, which is a curated protein database. Then we have the OWL database, which is again a non-redundant composite of the SwissProt, the GenBank, the PIR and the NRL 3D databases. Then we have the GenPept, which is a protein translation of the GenBank. Then we have the Unnome. It is a theoretical database that is used in de novo MS spectral interpretation. So these are the databases through which we can identify the protein by knowing the accurate mass by charge values of the digest fragments, the specificity of the enzyme used, and the accurate mass by charge of the intact protein. Right. Typically, the type of the enzyme or the protease used in the mass mapping approach is supposed to be an endoprotease. That means endoprotease is a protease which cleaves internal residues of the sequence. So typically, the type of the protease that is used in the peptide mass approach, mass mapping approach, is an endoprotease. That means it is a protease which cleaves the internal residues. An extended version of this method follows the endoproteolytic digestion with an exoprotease. So endoprotease cleaves internal residues. You can carefully observe the figure wherein the endoprotease digest is compared with exo and endoprotease digest. The spectra within the box gives you an idea about the theoretical approach of an endoprotease and the exoprotease as well as endoprotease digest. So typically the endoprotease is used so that cleaves internal residues. So in an entire sequence, you can see in endoprotease digest some of the residues which are internal to the sequence are cleaved. So you can see the peak randomly distributed. Now an extended version of this is the use of exoprotease. So this exoprotease cleaves successively from either the N-terminal or C-terminal side of a peptide or protein. Right. So the result is a mass spectrum with peptides differing by one amino acid residue. So if you use an endoprotease, it cleaves the internal residue. If you use an exoprotease along with an endoprotease, then the result of a mass spectrum is that the peptides differ by one amino residue. So each amino residue can be identified. So the mass difference between the ion signals determine the identity of the released amino acid, and this typically provides a sequence tag of the order of 1 to 12 amino acids. Right. So this method further increases, because you have a complete sequence of about 1 to 12 amino acids. So definitely this increases the possibility of a database giving you a match, so that a valuable information of a partial sequence tag is obtained. So this is how the amino acid sequence information can be obtained using the MALDI-MS. Of course, the length is about 1 to 12 amino acids. Still, if you can use the sequence what you get and search in the database, definitely you will have a hit by providing a valuable piece of information with using a simple partial sequence tag. Right. So as you can see in the figure, the entire sequence differing by one amino acid can be obtained. So this is how that the amino acid sequence information is determined using or by the MALDI-MS. Right. Next we have the characterization of the protein modifications. Can we use the MALDI technique to characterize the protein modifications? That is the co-translational or and even the post-translational modifications. That is the protein modifications including both co-translational and post-translational modifications, such as phosphorylation, sulfation, glycosylation, and N-terminal modifications. These modifications are very, very important in the process of cell regulation and as well as distribution. So how to determine the protein modifications, be it co-translation modifications or the post-translational modifications? Can the MS or the MALDI-MS be used? Say for example, protein phosphorylation. One such modification is known to play a critical or significant role in signal transduction pathways, that is cell signal transduction pathways. And we know that glycosylation, that is carbohydrates, they provide various functional, immunological and structural aspects of a glycoprotein. So characterization of protein modifications is an important aspect for analyzing the protein structure and as well as the protein function. So it is very, very important to characterize, to understand the structure and function of a protein. That means characterization with respect to modifications, because modifications play a critical role in several pathways. So the utility of MALDI for this purpose relies on its ability to perform accurate mass determination of the peptide mixtures and its very high sensitivity and resolving power as well as the buffer tolerance. Because of these features, we use the MALDI for this purpose, that is for the characterization of protein modifications. What are those features? Number one, ability to perform accurate mass determination, high sensitivity, resolving power, very high resolving power, and buffer tolerance. So all these features have made the utility of MALDI in the characterization of protein modifications. So the MALDI protocols for such protein modifications or the characterization, it starts with the enzyme digestion, that is use of the enzyme to digest the intact protein, so thus resulting in a complex mixture of peptides. So when a protein's primary structure is known, the molecular weight of a peptide can be used to identify the presence or determine or corroborate the presence of any modifications by its specific molecular weight difference. So if you can determine the molecular weight of a peptide, then you can easily determine if there are any modifications. So once you have a primary structure's molecular weight, then the protein undergoes modifications, be it co-translational or post-translation, and then again you determine the molecular weight. So difference between the molecular weight with respect to the primary structure and post or co-translated protein, then it is confirmed that if there is a difference, it is confirmed that the modifications have happened. So this approach is a straightforward but has very little specificity and selectivity. Right. So the results can be ambiguous if a complicated digestion mixture is presented. And this difficulty can be overcome by using a post-source decay MALDI to generate and record the metastable fragment ions. So you need the help of the HPLC, and sometimes it is needed before the MALDI analysis as a separation technique. So this protein modification characterization approach has been employed by several groups across the globe to identify and sequence either glycoproteins or the phosphoproteins. Right. So we have seen the primary sequence determination, then the utility of MALDI for characterization of the co-translation or the post-translation modifications. Further, we will see the protein structure elucidation. We know that proteins are typically folded in their native state. That means they have a very well defined three-dimensional structures with weak intramolecular forces. That is, as you know, it is all about the hydrogen bonds, the electrostatic or the hydrophobic interactions. Because the function of the protein relies heavily on this structure information or the tertiary protein conformation and quaternary protein-protein interactions, all these are of fundamental biological importance. So protein structure elucidation is equally important compared to the post-translational modification studies and primary sequence determination studies. So there are a variety of spectroscopic methods available to study the tertiary structure and as well as the quaternary protein structure. So that can be like X-ray crystallography. Then we have the NMR, that is nuclear magnetic resonance, and along with a variety of other spectroscopic techniques just to study the protein structure. But what should be noted here is no doubt that these techniques, they constitute the state of the art technique as far as the structural determination is concerned. They can be, the limitation is, they can be time consuming and they require deconvolution of complex data and a significant amount of material. So an alternative approach to investigate this higher order protein structure, that is the tertiary structure and the quaternary protein-protein interactions, using the mass spectrometry, is to probe the surface availability of regions of the molecule using the protein mass mapping method. So because of the limitations of the state of the art technique, be it NMR or X-ray crystallography or any other spectroscopic studies, an alternative approach to investigate the tertiary structure and the quaternary structure using MS, that is, it is to probe the surface availability of regions of the molecule using the protein mass mapping. The proteolytic digestion is dependent on the availability of cleavage sites, which is a reflection of the protein structure. Right. So therefore, the proteolysis performed in modified solution conditions. So they can sample different protein conformations, and relative differences in these conformations can then be discerned through direct comparison of the resulting mass spectrometric data. Right. So proteolytic digestion is dependent on the availability of cleavage sites. Okay. Now the availability of cleavage sites means it is a reflection of a protein structure wherever there is a cleavage site for the proteolytic enzyme used. That means it is indirectly a reflection of a protein structure. So therefore, proteolysis performed can sample different protein conformations, and relative differences in these conformations can then be compared and the information can be discerned from the resulting mass spectrometric data. Say, for example, digestion of a protein in its denatured or unfolded state will most likely result in the release of additional digest fragments when compared to the digest of the protein in its native or folded state. Why it is so? In the unfolded state, more cleavage sites will be accessible to the enzyme protease. Thus, owing to the lack of tertiary structure. So, this is how the proteolysis is used to discern the protein structure. So, digestion of a protein in its unfolded state, because more cleavage sites will be accessible for the enzyme that is being used. So, this will most likely result in the release of additional digest fragments when compared to the digest of the protein in its folded state. More cleavage sites are accessible in the unfolded state compared to the cleavage sites in the folded state. So, if it is unfolded, that means it is lacking the tertiary structure. So, this is how the proteolytic method or the digestion is used for discerning the higher order protein structure using the mass spectrometry. Now, moving to the application side. After understanding the principle of the mass spectrometry and the variations of the mass spectrometry, we have been we know that the mass spectrometry has no boundary with respect to its utility. I would like to mention few of them. Say, for example, in diagnostics. So, as mentioned previously, the power of the MALDI lies in its ability to analyze complex mixture. So, the capability of this technique, the MALDI, or the power of the MALDI, is its ability to analyze complex mixtures. So, this makes the MALDI a better technique for screening of biological fluids. So, be it the serum, the cerebral spinal fluid, or even the urine sample. However, the low analyte concentrations and signal separations due to large amounts of the host protein, say for example, the hemoglobin in the blood, and then the MALDI technique is, or the analysis is hindered when the fluids are so complex. As I said, the hemoglobin in blood, where the large amounts of host protein is present in the fluids, biological fluids. So, that is one limitation. If there is low analyte concentration, that also hinders the screening of the biological fluids. If there is a large amount of the analyte concentration, that also hinders the screening of the biological fluids. So, it is therefore necessary, or it becomes necessary, to isolate the analyte from the fluids prior to MALDI analysis. Got it? So you cannot straight away take the biological fluid and feed it to the MALDI MS. The reason is, if the analyte what you are looking is of low concentration, or if it is present in large amounts, then it hinders the screening of such biological fluids. That is why it becomes necessary to isolate the analyte from the fluids prior to the MALDI analysis, and the mass spectrometric immunoassay, which you can see over here, is another beautiful technique when we speak about the applications of MS with reference to diagnostics. So this MS immunoassay, as shown in the figure, relies on the affinity capture, that is antibody antigen recognition of the analyte from the biological matrix prior to mass spectrometric analysis. Right. So as I said, prior isolation of the analyte from the fluid is very necessary. So one such technique that is used to isolate the analyte is the MSIA, that is mass spectrometric immunoassay. So this relies on the affinity capture of the analyte from the biological fluid or the matrix prior to mass spectrometric analysis. So this method not only pre-concentrates the analyte, but it also provides for the most selective form of analyte isolation, making this an extremely powerful technique for screening the biological fluids. Right. So in diagnostics, from diagnostics point of view, if the analyte concentration is low, or if large amounts or higher amounts of analyte is present, that is not suitable, that complex fluid is not suitable to be injected directly into the mass spectrometry. So prior isolation of the analyte is required, or it becomes necessary. So one such technique is MSIA, that is mass spectrometry immunoassay. So this method not only pre-concentrates the analyte, but also provides the for the selective form of analyte isolation, thus making this technique as an extremely powerful for screening biological fluids. Right. Similar to the ELISA, you might be very well versed with ELISA, that is enzyme linked immunosorbent assay. This mass spectrometry immunoassay consists of the nanoscale immunoaffinity purification of the analyte of interest. So it is at the nanoscale, right? The isolation is performed by incubating the biological matrix with the antibodies. Now these antibodies are immobilized on a solid support, and during the incubation the analyte is captured on these immobilized antibodies, and after a series of washes the antibody antigen interaction is disrupted by addition of the acidic MALDI matrix. It is very much similar to your enzyme linked immunosorbent assay. Subsequent mass spectrometric analysis of the eluent confirms the presence of the antigen, that is what we call the analyte, and we also come to know what is the mass by charge value of that analyte. Unlike ELISA, the difference is any non-specifically bound molecules can be unambiguously differentiated from the analyte of interest owing to its unique mass by charge values measured. So in ELISA, you cannot differentiate based on m by z, but in MSIA, if there is any non-specifically bound molecule, it can be unambiguously differentiated from the analyte of interest by considering or owing to the unique m by z values measured. Right? So that is the beauty of the MALDI MS when we speak about its application relevant to the diagnosis or in the field of diagnostics. So I'll stop my discussion over here. Thank you very much. We will continue our discussion in the next session.